so much for coming. My name is Sarah Yung Ma. I graduated in 2023. It's really just such an honor and a privilege to be back. Every time we come back, it feels like home, you know. And I'm very happy to be here with these 5 amazing, amazing people. Actually, I was roommates with Maya, in case anybody didn't know. Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoy this pre-concert talk, and the concert will start at about 7:30. I think this was about a year and a half ago, during graduation, I was hanging out with Maya and Zola in Dan's house, or no, Amina's house, and, in Oberlin, and we were graduating, and we were just talking like, wouldn't it be awesome if our quartet commissioned a couple students from here, and from there the project just sort of took off. We found the rest of these awesome people. Daniel, whose piece I actually played when I was a student at Oberlin, one of their pieces in a quartet on their junior recital, I think, right? Something like that.
I think it's a senior recital.
But yeah, we just connected with everybody, and it's just such a whirlwind. I can't believe it's happening today. Yeah, huge endeavor, and really just grounded in a love for this school and the community of students of color, especially, and specifically of queer students of color, who have shaped so much of this school's environment, language, discourse, academic spaces, and social environment. So everything really is just for you guys, and I love all of you and all of you. And anyways, just really happy to be here. So I wanted to give you guys each an opportunity to introduce yourselves and your pieces really quick. Do you want to start?
Hello everybody, my name is Zola Saadi-Klein, they, them pronouns. I am a 4th year composition major, and I'm really excited for this opportunity. Oh yes, my piece is called bolbol, garm, seylāb, and that translates to nightingale, warm water, and floods. This piece is an homage and honor of the life and power of Mahsa Amini, who was killed by the morality police in 2022 in Iran. And so this piece is, just as much as it is about liberation, it's also about hope and freedom, and a call to prayer.
Hi, my name is Daniel Lasagna. I have many AKAs. My pronouns are he, they, and my piece is Circus of the Mind, which has a very deep backstory, if we have time. For a story. So,
we have like 1 minute.
1 minute.
Later you'll have.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so basically, it's about the circus of the mind, pretending to be okay, how you really feel underneath, how it feels to work through that, and how it feels to find resolve, and the kind of cyclical nature of that. And I've grown with that piece since I wrote it, and it's been very reflective in my own life. And I guess I'll dig into it a little bit later.
Hi everyone, my name is Irizarry Lambright, class of 2024. I was a violin performance major here. I was in the same studio as Sarah and as Max Ball, also in the quartet. The piece that I wrote is called Forest of Taldeni. Taldeni is just like a word I made up. Most of my pieces is like different words that I scrambled to like make a different word. This piece is, I'm also a big improviser. I love free improv, so this piece has a lot of graphic scores and text scores. I feel like it really allows for the musicians, like the quartet, to be able to connect with each other in a more like present way, and to really, feel in your body, feel present. There's moments of dance-like rhythms inspired by reggaeton, and then there's some more like noisy kind of environmental sounds. I'll talk more about it later as well.
Hello, my name is Calvin Ray Shawler. I am currently a 3rd year composition student here, and my piece is titled Order. And when I wrote it, I was in my violent string music era. And I think as I've sort of sat with it and thought about what I want to do with my music as a composer in a world that feels like things need to be done that are maybe more actionable than music, just been thinking about what it looks like to build new worlds and recreate the spaces we're living in and sort of the violence and turmoil that's associated with that.
Hi everybody, my name is Max Lang. I am a fourth year here at Oberlin studying creative writing and music in the college, and I use any pronouns. And my piece is called Commonplace Little Perils, and it's inspired by the time I spent working as a wrangler on a horse ranch in Colorado in this tiny little town called Tabernash. And just kind of seeing a lot of the dangers that come with nature and feeling those parallels to the dangers that marginalized people experience every day and the way that we persist through those dangers.
Thank you guys. I'm really curious because if you guys don't know, our quartet gave all the composers full creative liberties and freedoms. We didn't give them any restrictions on what they could write about or how to compose. And yet, despite all of these huge differences in inspiration in each of your works, there's a big common theme of desire, a yearning of some sort for safety or clarity amidst chaos, peace, liberation, sovereignty. Can you guys maybe just, each of you guys talk a little bit about what that means in your piece?
Yeah, I think a lot about, and you touched on this, and we've all kind of touched on this in a different way, of like imagining this kind of new world, like building a new world for ourselves. And I feel like finding that inspiration through like fantasy, through hope, and like through your imagination, I think is really important. I feel like it like is something that can ground us and like in this feeling of hope for a better future. And I think safety is something I grab onto a lot. And like hoping that music is so powerful, art is so powerful, like it can make us feel so, I don't know, that feeling of safety is very important to me. And I think knowing what that can feel like and knowing that we could feel like that everywhere and that we should be able to feel like that everywhere, I think is, important and grounding.
So my piece was definitely very self-reflective, but as it relates to liberation and safety, it was freedom from the mask of being fine, and then freedom to explore myself, as well as the freedom to find some sort of resolve, even if it's not the cheery facade that, the piece is supposed to represent. I'll talk about it more later. How the cheery facade, what's actually underneath that. And for me, what it represents is like the freedom to be complex in myself. And I didn't understand everything was reflecting at the time that I wrote it, but as I've reflected more, as I've grown with the piece, I'm very clear of like, wow, this is what my psyche was actually doing at the time that I wrote it. So it's the freedom to express that complexity at a time where I didn't really have much of an outlet to do so, other than music.
I think something else that's really unique and wonderful about this opportunity is generally when we're writing classical music for the concert hall, we often don't get the opportunity to work with musicians who share our identity. And so being able to write for a group of people who have similar identities is a wonderful way to ground the music and to explore how the music can be relevant in a way that I don't think is normally an opportunity, and I think speaks to why we've had sort of this thematic unity.
I think, especially because this project is so grounded in Oberlin, you guys are Oberlin alums, we are all Oberlin alums and students. This premiere is taking place at Oberlin. I think it speaks a lot to the way that Oberlin has been a safe place for a lot of us. Just especially for me musically, I feel very safe to experiment and try out a lot of new things. I feel very safe to be myself, to be very loudly and proudly Palestinian, all of the really, really wonderful things that I'm able to do here. And I think that's, because of that association, I think that's a really important theme in all of our pieces, and just kind of the way that this can be a really safe place for a lot of queer students.
Yeah, kind of just to tie in that connection that all of us are expressing with the quartet, you know, not just as musicians, but as friends and as colleagues. It's been something that's been so special to navigate during these times, and it's been, this whole process has just been so freeing, honestly. I just feel so free to be able to express, you know, kind of at the time that I was writing this piece, exactly how I would have written it, which is not always something that can happen based on the context of where you're writing or who you're writing the pieces for. So, yeah, I feel really connected to these people and these musicians on stage with me, and it's just been such a beautiful expression of our mixed identities.
Yeah, I think even as a performer, the opportunities like this don't come along very often. It's, you know, funding-wise, hard to get projects like this off the ground. We're very grateful for all the people who have donated. But the opportunity to work with other queer composers and to be able to have the resources as a performer to commission young and emerging composers too, it's just really been just very freeing for me as well to like look at you guys in the eyes and you're like my age. You're my age. And we hold so many identities that we share and so many ethos, values, even politics that are grounded and centered around the same drive for freedom or for liberation or exploring a world that would be safer for all of us. And yeah, I think definitely this common theme throughout this whole program has taken off as a result of just, yeah, this subconscious relationship that we have between each other, which is really beautiful. Because this is also the first time that all 6 of us have really been together, all 9 of us with the quartet as well. We're just hanging out backstage and we're like, I've never seen all of us together. And, but it feels like we have been. It feels like we've been talking together for so long. So thank you guys for taking this on. And I just wanted to add also another question. We've been talking a lot about identity and the various identities that we hold, the different struggles that we also face as artists in this industry. Is there a way that these different concerns and experiences that we have might affect your compositional process, either subconsciously or very explicitly? And if anybody wants to talk, yeah.
Okay, I'll try to not make it too long, but this gets into what I was talking about earlier. So when I wrote this piece, I was in a severely abusive relationship where it's hard to function as a person, as an artist. And when I wrote it, I didn't think it was very good because my self-esteem was so poor from the abuse that I didn't think anything I did was good. So I wrote it, and I sent it, and everyone was like, oh, that's great. And I'm like, okay. And even my abuser loved it. He was like, oh, this is great. I love it. I'm so proud of you. He loved my art, even though he didn't respect me. And so obviously that affected my ability to write because sometimes making music was an escape. Other times it was harder to do things like practice or prepare for things or show up with the level of professionalism I always wanted to because my life was just in shambles. And then there's an ambivalence about him being self-aware, wanting to change, not having access to resources to help himself, and then me wanting to stick that through versus escaping not even being possible. So all that's happening, and then I'm writing this piece, and it is a reflection of my mind, of pretending to be fine in that relationship, and the deeper self-exploration that was required to survive that relationship, and then also putting it all together in the end where in the moment, I didn't know what my psyche was doing with that song. I just was writing a song. But looking back, I can see very clearly the themes and then the way that my mind was trying to work through a sense of understanding and clarity in the midst of that situation through art. even though I couldn't, the clarity that was obvious to me didn't come for much longer. And now I feel very proud of myself for writing this, and I hope that my art helps other people in similar situations, whether it be abuse or just mental health issues or any situation that requires them to, like I say, over-reduce themselves in a way that's constraining and then need the freedom to fully express exactly what's going on.
I also work as a theater artist. I'm an actor and a playwright, and theater is a lot easier to talk about identity in. It's bodies on stage, and so it has to be about the bodies. Music is so much more abstract, and it's about these things that you're hearing, which often have really rich cultural roots, but that we haven't figured out, at least in the classical music realm, how to have conversations about as efficiently as we are in the theater world, at least on this campus. And I think that this campus is doing a really great job compared to probably most of the classical music world. I think this piece was one stab at trying to incorporate identity into my music in a conceptual way more than a sonic way. I don't know if it's really that successful, but I think the collaboration has made it successful, and I'm really proud of what has become of it. And I'm continuing to try and figure out effective ways to communicate with an audience through this medium.
When I was writing this piece, a majority of it was during the summer, so I wasn't here at this campus, with all of my friends and some of you who are still here. And so that kind of feeling of this sense of place and space and homeland in one aspect, and Oberlin as another sense of place and homeland that has been for me for the past 4 years. This kind of same idea I've been thinking a lot about because I am Iranian American. I still have family who lives in Iran, yet I have never been, I have yet to go. And so just kind of knowing that they exist out there as, people who look like me or just have the same connection to culture as I do, but have grown up with that sense of who they are in that place and space. And so kind of trying to imagine these two worlds as not so separate has been very difficult and healing. And I think even though this topic of Maslamini was something I'm still trying to get through, I don't think I'll ever recover from it, it's still someone that was able to bridge those worlds that so often don't come together, because she became the face of the newly reinvigorated women life freedom movement. And so, I think, those connections of space and place are really something, and gender and queerness also has a huge place in this, just because I am queer and non-binary, and that's just in the piece, so there's some aspects of that, of course. It's not necessarily so explicit, but
I relate as well with the queerness and my being genderqueer, and I think the way I write feels very inherently queer. I think I'm a classically trained musician. I mostly do classical music, but discovering free I've always been improvising, but really getting into it and seeing how that can play out in a compositional way has been really fun, because I think I love to compose, but the way that maybe I've seen composition or I've played new compositions has felt pretty rigid, and has felt there are all these rules and you gotta this harmony and whatever, chord progressions, and it's okay, well, I just want to draw a picture and write some words and see what they do with that. So I think like that feels very tied in with like my identity and the way that I just exist in the world. Like I feel like, you know, as queer people, we're like breaking rules left and right. So I think compositionally, I'm also breaking rules left and right. So
I think for me, musically, it's been kind of a journey getting really in touch with my identity as I've been writing. Typically, when I start writing, I really, really thrive if I have something, like some kind of physical image that I'm thinking about as I'm writing. That's why a lot of my pieces have been nature-inspired, like this one is. I often thrive if I have, like, a sound that I've heard out in the world, like this one has like train sounds and bird calls and stuff that I was really inspired by. I thrive when I have something like that to hold on to. But this piece really helped me get in touch with the identity side of writing and just kind of the really internal thoughts that I was having in reactions to a lot of the things that I was seeing in kind of like the physical world. There's also something that is so important and like cultural wise about music. I mean, I think about like all of the music that I grew up listening to, because like not only was I listening to like classical music on the way to school with my dad, but I also grew up on like my mom's Lebanese pop tunes and all sorts of stuff that I look back at my music and I see a lot of those things reflected. And I think that part of identity, just kind of how deeply it can be tied to culture and music is so, so important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of times the idea of identity within music and art can become reduced to just performing an aspect of ourselves, but in reality it's so interconnected with our experiences and our livelihoods. And also, I mean, personally, but I'm sure many of you guys would agree, I believe in art as a tool for change in the world, and a lot of that change, you know, comes from people who can ignite a spark in some way through the things that they've experienced, through the things that they know to be true in this world. And when we can channel our experiences, not necessarily just like some abstract idea of identity, but our real experiences into a tool for change, that's really powerful, or at least something that can inspire people to do something similar, you know. So thank you guys for coming. I think we're really out of time. But I also just want to encourage you guys to direct, if you a suggested donation of around $5 to $10 to El Centro, a local organization here who's helping immigrant communities in Lorain County, a really, really wonderful org I'm sure many of you guys know about. If you donate to the donation link for this project, which is on our website, you can, we will direct all of those donations directly to El Centro, or you can also donate directly to them on their website. But thank you guys so much for coming. There's future performances of these pieces as well, which is on the last page of the program. And yeah, we're very excited to play everything for you, and thank you guys.
Thank you.